Perhaps no symbol in the Naruto world will ever be as terrifying as a crimson cloud on a black cloak. The Akatsuki organization was a plague that very nearly destroyed the entire world. Villages were obliterated, friends were lost, and for years, the fate of every person on the planet hung on a knife's edge. As powerful as the organization itself was, it's important to separate the individual members and focus on their contributions that made the team so formidable. So, naturally, we have to ask, which one was the best? Somehow, it feels almost unfair to judge Juzo against the other Akatsuki members. Itachi's first partner in the team, and one of the legendary 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, didn't last long in the organization despite his impressive skills. Like the other swordsmen, Juzo had a specialized blade and expert water-release jutsu. Too bad it wasn't enough to save him. It's kind of sad that Akatsuki became the symbol of terror in the shinobi world, considering the lofty goals its founder Yahiko formed it on. The Naruto-esque ninja was a victim of the constant infighting of the shinobi war. All he wanted was to overthrow the evil in his world to finally bring an end to all global conflict. Ironically, the organization he created to do that led to one of the most brutal conflicts the world had ever seen. Ultimately, Yahiko's powers as both a ninja and as a leader came up too short for him to see his dream come true. Not every ninja can succeed as much as Naruto has, I guess. In many ways, Black Zetsu was the ninja among ninja. The guy was able to play shinobi history itself. He manipulated everyone from the earliest days of the ninja world to Madara Uchiha himself. That being said, none of the Zetsu were true powerhouses. As automaton, they mostly served as fodder for the ninja war. Still, Black Zetsu was a true master of manipulation, infiltration, and sabotage. If it weren't for Naruto catching him in the end and sending him back to Kaguya, he'd likely be starting all over with his plans to manipulate the world to bring her back yet again. Sometimes, being a one ninja army isn't as valuable as being the sneakiest creature in the world. Deidara really raised that bar in the opening arc of Shippuden. He took on the new and improved Gaara on his home turf. Not only was he able to keep Gaara at bay, but he brought the Kazekage down by nearly destroying his village itself. Deidara utilizes clay explosives that he can control at will. He doesn't just use this technique to become a more threatening shinobi, but because he considers himself to be something of an artist in the explosive arts. It's no wonder he was partnered up with the greatest puppet master in the world. Ultimately, every artist has to contend with the next generation arriving to overthrow them. For Deidara, that artist was Sasuke Uchiha, who finally brought the explosive expert to his final end. In many ways, Kakuzu was the problem child of the Akatsuki organization. The mercenary was never all that concerned with the other members of the team or the organization's mission. He was just the group's hired agent of destruction, who kept destroying every partner they paired him up with. It wasn't until he was thrown another immortal, Hidan, that he was able to function properly in the group. Kakuzu's body was made up of tendrils that sewed him together like a rag doll who could steal other people's organs. Ultimately, his immortality was put to its final test when Kakashi and Naruto brought his long-lived reign of terror to a brutal end. Orochimaru's pupil and the Chunin exam turncoat Kabuto never really seemed like he would amount to much in the series. He was primarily a medical ninja, which initially didn't make him seem like much of a threat. That all changed in Shippuden when he joined forces with Akatsuki. Surprisingly enough, Kabuto ended up proving himself as one of the team's most valuable members. He was able to use impure world reincarnation to summon a ton of fallen shinobi to take on the rest of the world. For a shinobi who thought he was so smart, he made one critical error. If you were lucky enough to live in a world where Itachi Uchiha is deceased, don't resurrect him. That should have been a no-brainer. I've always had a soft spot for the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist ever since Zabuza dropped in on the first arc to show just how awesome Naruto could be. So, you can imagine my excitement when I saw that Akatsuki had a Zabuza of their own, packing a bigger sword and a lot more power. Kisame possessed massive chakra reserves that earned him the nickname the Tailed Beast Without a Tail. Combined with his chakra-absorbing blade and his incredible water-release jutsu, Kisame truly stood above all the other swordsmen of the mist. It's just too bad that Kisame decided to go up against Might Guy. If you're a shinobi that prioritizes brute strength, do not take on Might Guy. Sasori may have been the first Akatsuki member we ever saw get obliterated, but I don't think it's because he was one of the weaker members of the team. Teaming up with Sasori's grandmother and mentor Chiyo was likely the only way Sakura could have ever taken the ultimate puppet master down. Sasori was like a Russian nesting doll of brutal puppet weapons, made from normal puppets, living human puppets like the third Kazekage, and his own body. His ability to utilize techniques like iron sand along with performance of 100 puppets proved that Sasori wasn't only one of the deadliest soldiers in Akatsuki, but a true artist like Deidara as well. While the Akatsuki were all brutal criminals, few of them actually demonstrated just how merciless they could be to the fans themselves. Hidan certainly proved himself to be a true monster when he devastated fans by taking Asuma's life. He was able to link his body to Asuma's, basically turning his own flesh into a voodoo doll. All he had to do was deliver upon himself a fatal blow to bring Asuma down for good. This demise led to one of the greatest showdowns in the series, his battle with Shikamaru. Even though Hidan's immortality and his blood-linking jutsu made him far more powerful than Shikamaru, the younger shinobi was still able to obliterate his body and leave him to rot for all eternity. Hidan may be one of the scariest shinobi in Akatsuki, but he's no Shikamaru. Never mess with Shikamaru. I think pretty much everyone just assumed that former Akatsuki member Orochimaru was going to be the big bad guy of the Naruto series after he almost obliterated Konoha during the Chunin exams. He's a fierce, sadistic ninja who will resort to pretty much any tactic to win a fight or to just stay alive. His vast knowledge of inhuman jutsu saw him defy his own demise and then overcome his old master, Sarutobi. If Orochimaru had just given up on his obsession with gaining an Uchiha body, he might have been able to overcome Akatsuki as the greatest villain in the series. Unfortunately, his obsession led to nothing but failure. He's still kicking around in Boruto. There's still a chance that Orochimaru will rise to his potential as the biggest villain the series has ever seen. He just needs to figure out a forbidden jutsu that will allow him to overcome his obsessions. Konan may be the Akatsuki member who gets the least attention, but it doesn't mean that she isn't insanely powerful. I could go into great detail about how interesting and innovative her paper jutsu is, but I feel like that's just beating around the bush. Konan can summon 600 billion exploding paper tags that could level an entire city. What more do I even need to say? Now, it's entirely possible that under a different set of circumstances, Itachi Uchiha could have been the most powerful shinobi to ever live. He was the very first member of Akatsuki we ever met, and he really set the tone for the terror that was to follow. Utilizing his Mangekyo Sharingan to immobilize Kakashi into a frozen state of psychic torture showed that these guys were on a level that we'd have to wait until the spin-off to see our heroes get to. We would then learn that Itachi was the one who wiped out the entire Uchiha clan, which is no small feat. His final showdown with Sasuke proved that we only ever saw a glimpse of his true potential. If it weren't for his sickness wiping him out in the end, Itachi may have dwarfed all of his teammates as the scariest monster in the entire world. Recruiting Sasuke Uchiha into Akatsuki was both one of the best and worst decisions the team ever made. Like his brother, Sasuke was a true prodigy who had learned advanced techniques from world-renowned ninja like Kakashi and Orochimaru. More than that, Sasuke had the passion to see his goals for a new shinobi world come to life. It'd be easy to see a world where Sasuke remained with the Akatsuki and took over Obito's spot as the head of the organization. In a way, he was already practicing it by having his own private squad of Akatsuki members. Taka mirrors the beginnings of Akatsuki as a team of elite younger ninja banded together for common goals that went against conventional morality. If he was placed under Madara's wing and used his Rinnegan and Sharingan for Akatsuki ends, the entire world would likely be under Kaguya's spell at this very moment. Unfortunately, Sasuke had to ruin it all by turning on the team. Together with his old friends, he not only stopped Akatsuki, but the goddess who was controlling Akatsuki all along. Now, there may be some personal bias for this one, because to me, the Pain vs. Naruto fight is one of the highest points of the entire series. Naruto had been building to the point where he would finally prove to the entire village that he was their greatest hero since episode 1. In order to cross that threshold, they were going to have to throw him up against an enemy far greater than any he had faced before. Nagato's 6 Paths of Pain technique very nearly brought the show to a grinding halt. He was able to wipe out Konoha, including many of the top-tier shinobi who gave it their all defending the village. Luckily, Naruto brought the pain to Pain and helped Nagato gain peace. In the end, Nagato was not only able to more or less wipe Konoha off the map, but save it as well. That Rinnegan of his was no joke. The big reveal that the silly Akatsuki agent Tobi was actually Kakashi's old rival and original owner of his Sharingan, Obito Uchiha, instead of Madara, was one of the show's best twists. They followed this up by showing just how formidable an opponent the would-be leader of the Akatsuki truly is. Utilizing Sharingan and Rinnegan abilities on top of his impressive skills as a top-tier shinobi, Obito had not just Kakashi and his team on the ropes, but the entire world as well. Once he sealed the Ten Tails into himself, he overcame even Nagato as the most powerful of the classic Akatsuki team at last. Obito may not have been Akatsuki's final boss like he thought he was, but he certainly proved that he was worthy of holding his place above the likes of Itachi and the others. The Naruto franchise will probably expand to at least 3 more spin-offs after Boruto, but I genuinely don't think it will ever produce a group quite as iconic or as terrifying as the Akatsuki.